Hello and welcome to my weekly video blog, and this week I'm going to talk about 5 of my favourite things that keep me well post-menopause. If you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and remember to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all my new videos. Going through the menopause, it can sometimes be really hard to see to the end of your day, never mind how you're going to cope post-menopause, as this can seem a lifetime away. But we know that how we look after ourselves today can have a huge impact on our future health. But self-care doesn't stop once you're post-menopause. So today I thought I would tell you about 5 of the things that really help me to keep me going. So if you think about it, in the UK, the average age for women is 81.7 years. So if you enter post-menopause at 50, you'll have over 30 years, which you will want to be as happy and healthy as you can. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. Firstly, what exactly does postmenopause mean? And it's really confusing because there's so many different sources say different things. Postmenopause is basically when you've been through 2 years without any periods. But that doesn't mean at the end of 2 years your symptoms suddenly stop and that's it. The 2-year rule is really more to do with the fact that you can no longer get pregnant after your periods have stopped. So for some of you, symptoms may not last very long, but for others, post-menopause symptoms can really drag on. So the better equipped you are to face this, the easier it will be at the end of the day. So looking at my favourite things, obviously, it goes without saying, so that's a healthy, varied diet with plenty of plain water is paramount, as is keeping active regularly. But there's a few things that I tend to focus on a lot more than maybe I did before. So number 1 is heart health. Women post-menopause are much more vulnerable to heart attacks and strokes than men of the same age. So it's really important to look after your heart as well as possible. So regular activity and, exercise can bring up connotations of punishing yourself and really not enjoying it. So we're looking at being active, which means you're not sitting about doing nothing. So you want to be heart active at least 2 to 3 times a week. So that means you're raising your heartbeat. And even if you do that for a few minutes, 2 to 3 times a week, that can be of benefit. So for me, because there's a few heart issues that run in my family, I make sure that I do high intensity interval training for 20 minutes once or twice a week. I will also have 2 brisk half-hour walks when I'm working from home at lunchtime. And I'll also try and do, weather permitting, up here in Scotland, a good 6-mile hike once a week. And I find that really helps to keep me going. The other thing is keeping as mobile as you can just during your daily work. For me, I sit a lot at my desk, so I know that it's really important not to sit for too long, because your heart rate goes down when you're sitting that way. So I try and get up maybe once every hour at least and just walk around the building or run up and down the stairs, just so that I can move about as much as I can. Number 2 is flexibility and balance. I've been doing yoga on and off for a long time. So when I was about 30 and I did regular yoga, my teacher, she was over 70, which then seemed, an eon away. And here am I, maybe too long before I'm over 70. And she said, you're only as young as your spine. And that has stuck with me all my life. And because, let's face it, if you stiffen up, if you can't bend to pick things up, if you can't reach things, if you can't turn round, that's it. That's going to impede you in all sorts of different areas of your life. So I still do the yoga. I'll try to do maybe 20 minutes twice a week. But any flowing, stretching exercises such as Tai Chi or dancing are really great. But, you know, I know that joint and muscle aches and pains are a huge issue in the menopause and post-menopause. You can get lots of simple seated exercises that you can do. YouTube is great. I tend to get bored with exercise really quickly, so I'll very often do completely different exercises every week just to keep my interest going. So YouTube is really great for that. As far as balance goes, that again, in the UK, at least 76,000 women post-menopause end up with hip fractures every single year. And a lot of it is just to do with poor balance. They basically just trip over something and can't get their balance back, or lose their balance back. And this is where the stretching and balance very often work really well together. Osteoporosis, which is weakened bone health, is a big factor in this as well. So looking after your bones, another really important one. Balancing exercises you can do at any point. They often laugh at me at work because I'll be standing beside the photocopier balancing on one leg. You can do it while you're waiting for the bus, for the kettle to boil. You can get one of these balance boards, which I've got as well. It's quite hard. I can't manage a long time on that, but you just stand on it. It's like a ball with a little platform around it, and it helps you to learn to get your balance back. So again, really get into this one, because it can prevent you from getting one of these awful fractures later on in life. Number 3 is food generally. I love food. I just absolutely love food. But the problem for me is I'm really small, so I only need to overeat for a week on holiday and I'm up a dress size. And then of course, it's just not so easy to take it off as to put it on. So what I tend to do is I do the 80-20 rule, and I find that that has worked really well for me over the years. So it's basically just, I will eat really healthily, really sensibly, 80% of the time, but 20% of the time I will enjoy myself. So if I'm on holiday, if I am having a meal with friends or family, I really enjoy myself, and I don't limit myself, because, you know, if someone said to me, you can't ever have chocolate cake, alcohol and coffee again, I would cry. So life can be so miserable too, and especially going through the menopause, you're struggling with all these different things, and having something really enjoyable to eat can be such a treat. So I make sure that I get a treat now and again, and that fills me with absolute happiness. However, if you are on a special diet for any particular reason, and you're under a practitioner or a healthcare practitioner, then obviously you need to follow their advice rather than do what I'm talking about just now. Number 4 is sleep. This is so important. There's so much research out there now showing that poor sleep can impact on your mental health, your physical well-being. It can trigger weight gain. It can affect your digestion. It can affect so many different things at the end of the day. And I know for me, post-menopause, I used to be able to go to sleep in an instant, the minute my head touched the pillow. Now, you know, I find sometimes it can take me quite a while to get to sleep, and also to stay asleep. I tend to wake up once or twice during the night. So I find that very calming music for a little while always helps me to drop off. If I'm worried about something, we have our Passiflora spray, and I have a few sprays of that, maybe about half an hour before I jump into bed. I try not to read scary stuff or watch scary stuff on the TV, because that sets your mind going, and it can also rev up your nervous system, which makes it more difficult to get to sleep as well. If I do wake up and I can't get back to sleep, then I will get up. I will make myself a nice hot drink. I love Tulsi tea. It's made with a herb called holy basil. It's very calming and soothing. It's warming, and in the middle of winter I'll fill up my hot water bottle as well if it's really cold. And I usually find just doing that little routine when I go back to bed, I can drop off and get a good night's sleep. So number 5 is have a little bit of joy and happiness every day. And again, this can be so difficult with everything that's going on in the world today, all of the things that we're worried about, our family, our friends, our finances, our physical self, how we're coping through the menopause. So it can feel really hard and bleak sometimes to get through the day. So finding something that can give you that little bit of joy or a bit of an uplift is so important. It's vital. It's basically not a luxury. So one of my super supports is I have a group of like-minded friends. We have a little WhatsApp group. We're always sending each other little uplifting quotes, or if we're out for the day and we see a beautiful scene in nature, we'll take a picture and send it to each other. We'll send little snippets of how we're feeling on that particular day. And just to have other people around us in that manner actually helps to really lift my spirits up. Otherwise, for me, it's getting into nature. I'm lucky I have a little garden. So in the summer, I'll get out and do my gardening. I know for a lot of people that don't have gardens, they would love to do it. And one of the great things I know, especially in the UK, that's happening is that a lot of community gardens are springing up all over the place. So if you fancy doing a little bit of gardening or getting your hands into the soil, then look out for those. They're always looking out for volunteers. And I know that, I was reading the other week that doctors here as well are starting to prescribe gardening for low mood and depression. And in Japan, there's something called forest bathing, which is very, very popular. And there's so much scientific research that shows that just walking in nature can lift your mood and your spirit up. So that's another thing that most of us can try and do if we can at some point. So these are things that I enjoy that help me to cope post-menopause and with life in general. But even if you are looking after yourself, it's really important to know when you need help post-menopause. So if you find that your symptoms come back after 5, 6, 7 years, so you suddenly start to get flushes or joint aches or low mood or anxiety, it's very unlikely to be hormonal after all that time. So it's really important to go to the doctor, get things like your vitamin D, B12 checked, your iron levels checked, your thyroid checked, because all of these things can suddenly appear post-menopause. We're more vulnerable to these types of ailments, and they can cause symptoms that are absolutely identical to menopause ones. The other really important thing is if you are post-menopause over 2 years and your periods come back, please get this checked out by your doctor. There can be so many reasons for this, but it's vital to get a proper diagnosis so that you know what kind of treatment you need. So I hope you found this one helpful. It's just a little snippet into my life and how I help myself cope with life in the 21st century. If you have found something that has helped you, as always, please share them. I love reading all your comments and your stories every single week. So please keep those coming. Have a lovely week, and I will see you next week.